Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast, a very special podcast after the events of the weekend. My name is Daizen Maeda, and I am very glad to say, for now at least, Ralph Malv may join us if he becomes free, but for now I'm joined by our resident tactician strokes, new Celtic granddad, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, guys.
How is the grandson, Hector? Because everyone just wants to know. They're no interest in your views on Celtic.
Absolutely. He knows more about Celtic than me already. He's just 2 weeks tomorrow, I think. Yeah, see him every day on a FaceTime, whatever. So I'm going over to see him in just under 3 weeks' time. So looking forward to it. And
have you got that S form in your bag ready to get signed?
All done and dusted. I paid Brendan a wee visit on Sunday night. You know, he wasn't long home for the game just to get that.
Was it you he was waving at in the car?
It was indeed, Desi. It was indeed. That was the contract that he was waving.
That was signed, sealed and delivered. Lovely. Excellent. And also joining us, I'm glad to say, the man across the water, Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Evening, lads. Good to be here.
Yeah, so hopefully Ralph can join us. He's somewhere in the Stoke wilderness as far as we know, but he did hope to join us.
Oh, no, he's not. No, he's in the Scottish borders.
Oh, don't say that.
He is. He's round about Hoy Shields.
Hold on, I was going to say, he's not a prototype for this new police initiative, is it, to monitor football fans travelling between games and all that? Because I can just imagine him being stalked up the motorway. I can see that happening. So is he in holiday?
I don't know. He put it on the chat to say he was near Hoyk.
All right. Okay, sorry, I never saw that. So okay, if he does manage to join, great. If he does not manage to get a Wi-Fi signal in the caravan park, fair enough. Right. So obviously, folks, we are here to celebrate a quite fantastic Sunday, this game. But first of all, before I do, I'd just like to give a few shout-outs. I'd like to thank everyone for their kind words regards the podcast, but also for highlighting our recent downtime of the site, www.etims.net. Thanks for flagging that up. Hopefully it has now all been sorted out. Monty C. Burns made a call and threatened to cancel the cheques, and it should have, or actually sent a cheque. I don't know what one it was, but let's not discuss that tonight. Monty, so all should be good. www.etims.net should be up and running. And a very special shout out to Dan Tosney on Twitter for demanding, Hector no less, demanding last night that we also were up and deliver a celebration podcast. So this is a special tribute to Dan Tosney, who's really wanting to hear our views and to hear us enjoy what was a wonderful Sunday. But Hector, I'm going to take you back. Before Sunday, the signing window closed, and the words of Radiohead, no alarms and no surprises. Did you expect that we maybe have snuck a wee special, a wee Robbie Keane on the steps at midnight one?
I wasn't wanting a Robbie Keane type signing, but I can I get your point? Yes, I was hoping for another left back to come in.
Yeah,
Desi, and I think there's been some comment post the window slamming shut, as they say, right, that we tried to get the young left back from Sevilla on loan, option to buy for the season, but he decided not to come. And for me, that's kind of frustrating, because you would surely know that before the Friday. Yeah, then move on to someone else, perhaps. But anyway, we spoke in great detail about it. I think there's a lot of future planning, which can be hit or miss, but it's been pretty successful recently. I'd just like to have seen at least one more, maybe two, a little bit more experience, maybe 26, 27, kind of centre mid, defensive mid, bit of physicality, because Rodgers did ask for that, and that left back, and Alistair Johnston type at left back, that'd been perfect for me.
Yeah, and Monty, on Saturday evening, I was going out with my nephews to see the Celtic story, and there'd been a kind of visual circulating that you probably saw, and it was basically the team, the squad categorised into their positions, and you could see basically 2 strikers, 2 left backs, let's say, that would not be anyone's immediate first choice if we were to put up a dream Celtic 11 right now, if we could have replaced them. Were you feeling there was maybe a chance missed there?
I think it's a bit of yes and no, Desi. I think we talked about it on the last podcast. The model, we had a really good, actually, kind of thinking back on how we debated that, and I thought it was very very mature for 3 old farts, I guess.
It'll never last.
But we stuck to the model, and the difficulty, I think, is going to be finding an upgrade in that position that is an international, that fits the profile that we have. Johnson, we kind of want to watch. We seem to be ahead of the curve on that when we got him at right back, and he was in the World Cup. So you are looking at another, could you call it a tier 2, national team left back who's young. Everybody probably wants those, Desi. So I'd have liked to have seen that, same as Hector. I think it was the one missing piece of the puzzle. You've time to get a goalkeeper over the course of the season and in the next window if Hart is going to retire. But no, I think you look at it, it was really, really clever use of the squad. I know we're going to come on to it as we talk through the podcast, but there's still gaps there. We're still a work in progress, and Brenton said that after the game as well. So disappointed? No, I think we're just sticking to the model, and the model works. So why wouldn't you? Just try to hone it and be better.
Yeah, fair enough. It was just like, so just to give you my scenario. So I'm in the pub on Saturday night, my 2 young nephews and my pal, and we're discussing this the day ahead. So this is Saturday night, 6:30, and it's the day ahead, and we're basically saying, who's the team going to be tomorrow? What do we feel tomorrow? And a bit like our recent podcast, let's just say no one was overly confident, right? And that's me being really positive in the reviews. Give me his due, right? Ralph, last week on the last podcast, did say the words, Liam Scales has went to Ibrox and won, he will not be phased, right? But everyone else seemed to be worried about the centre pairing. So, Hector, you wake up, I know you're an early riser, Sunday morning, out with the dog, smiling, nodding away to the neighbours, etc., out in the suburbs there. But then the lineup comes in for the team. No Nat Phillips, no Bernardo, only Palmas on the bench from your new recruits. If you can put it politely, what were your initial thoughts?
It's the first time in quite a long time I had a wee bit of fear getting into a game against them. You always lose. Nature of football, you always lose games, right? Every Celtic manager has. Although we might come to that during this pod about Brendan Rodgers' record, which has come out in the last few days, which I didn't realise how good it was. But anyway, we'll park that for now. Yeah, probably for the first time had a wee bit of the fear. And it's not because they are anything special, because we knew in advance they weren't. We've all had open conversations about that. It's just that we had by our own standards, a slow start to the season. And we were also missing some absolutely fundamental players, including an established centre-back pairing over the last 2 seasons. Now, my thoughts, Carter Vickers just exceptional. Less so, my opinion, regards Starfield, but there's no debate. As a partnership, they were highly successful, certainly domestically. To have that ripped up, have no Hatate, have no Jota, have Liam Scales, let's be honest, was probably the 6th choice centre-back. And if they were all fit, there's a strong chance he was getting sold or moved out to Aberdeen before the window closed. Yeah. So if you weigh all that up, go to Ibrox, they've got 50,000 fans, we've got none. They've got a team, which we've commented on before, has got a lot of physical presence about it. Everything pointed towards them trying to bully us, and probably successfully bullying us, with the referee and VAR probably on their side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's me set the scene. That's how I felt. I thought we might struggle. I thought we might lose by a couple of goals during the game.
Yeah. So I basically echoed your sentiments when I saw the team. Like we've got our Tim's WhatsApp chat, and basically it was a case of, oh fuck, shit, etc., can't believe it, nobody's made it, blah blah blah. But a couple of 100 miles away, there was a stoic voice standing firm, wasn't there, Monty? You were not for having any of that nonsense. And in all fairness to you, you said, let's remember, this mob are shite. As Hector mentioned, we knew they weren't very good, but that was you, like, as in, rather than looking at it from a Celtic weakness point of view, is, well, where exactly is the danger going to come from? Hector also alluded to the ref and VAR, which was a big worry, but we'll come to that later. But from an actual opposition, comparison, Monty, you called that out on Sunday morning, in all fairness to you.
Yeah, I think the challenge for us going into these games is that you know that the biggest impact on where the title ends up, unless you have an exceptional season. And when you look at the lineups and you look at we talk about recruitment and models and stuff. The midfield are up against Cantwell and Raskin. That's their fucking flagship, in the middle. And you're thinking Colin McGregor, Matt O'Reilly, and whoever else started with them against those two, you're going to be fine. Up front, they haven't been that good up front for years. They had Morelos who banged in loads of goals. He's gone. They only started, was it 2 of their 9 signings? Which suggests a squad in complete fucking, puzzlement. And at the back, ironically, they were strengthened by the fact that Barisic hadn't played, because we get so much joy in between their fullback and centre half turns. So I think it wasn't so much even confidence, Desi. I think I mentioned it at the end. I've fucking zen recently. It's just another 3 points. If we'd have got beat if we got beat the weekend, would have been 2 points behind. We're 4 points ahead. It really isn't anything, you know what I mean? But psychologically, we've landed a huge thump. So I wasn't confident, Desi. Still didn't think we'd win, but they're shite. We're just less shite at the minute, but we're on an upward trajectory. They seem to have plateaued. Sorry, Hector. I think you'd. No,
there's just you. We both mentioned them not being good or shite, to coin your terms, which I would fully agree with. The one thing that, thinking back, that I certainly didn't factor in and probably should have done, was they'd just been pumped 5-1 midweek on the Wednesday night in Eindhoven. Now, this was a massive. It was a Champions League qualifier, so it wasn't they put out a B team and get pumped. They'd gone there, and MD had watched the game. They should probably lost the 8 goals that night, and that's the one thing, thinking back, that it must have an impact. It must have an impact on the players, on the manager, and on their confidence to get your ass handed in a plate, 5-1 going on 8-1 or 8-2, and then playing us in front of 50,000 of their own fans with massive expectations and the pressure that brings. And that's something that I didn't factor in, and I think it played a part.
Yeah, and like I also mentioned last week during their game, I always hark back to the whole adrenaline crash. It's massive. Even when you win big games, like if you notice in cup finals, you win cup finals and then suffer in the next game because you've had such an adrenaline high, and then your physiological state collapses. So your body takes time to react. So during that game at Eindhoven, remember they wrote it back to 2-1. Remember, for at least 64 seconds. But so suddenly their adrenaline soars, thinking we can get back into this, and then it crashes again. So again, as you say, the impact on that, it really does have an effect on your body. But we, maybe stupidly, just assumed it would be the dogged, right, this is us, we need to step up here. We've got all our fans behind us. This is where we really get back on track, so to speak, right? And in comparison, and I know we've kind of touched on it, but in comparison, we're looking at the lineup and we're thinking, we've got Scales and Lager Bielka, right? We've got that centre pair. We've got Turnbull and O'Reilly, who hadn't really been working together as a midfield pairing in front of Callum McGregor, and Medabada and Maeda, who hadn't really been setting the the world on fire. So we were thinking maybe we were going to be a bit light. They were going to come out all gung-ho, shoulders. And again, we thought there was going to be a physical presence there that we were going to get blown out. Some of us thought we maybe get blown away with. It would be the whole shoulders in the air, and we could have been doing with a Barry Robson stroke Paul Hartley sort of combination just to combat it. But that never transpired ultimately in the game.
Yeah, I think part of that, and I think part of it too, going into the game, one of the things, and I think Hector correctly brings it up, when we're in the Champions League or you're playing those midweek European matches, after a couple of them, you tend to start getting leggy on the Saturday or the Sunday, as it'll be for them. And I remember Postecoglou said it, I know Lennon said it, it's a theme. They say that you don't realise how much those matches take out of you, mentally and physically. So for them, you have to imagine that their pre-season was geared up to peak at that PSV second leg. That we were the bounce after that. That they're building, remember our seasons have been so fraught like that for years up until we got the automatic qualification in the last 2 years. It's a fucking season in itself. And to be spanked the way they were, and I didn't think PSV were great shakes. I thought that they're one of their centre halves, Shuffley or whatever, the funny name. But anyway, I thought he was really good, but I didn't think PSV were that good. But you're right, they could have beat them fucking 6 or 7. That hits you no matter what level. You take a hammering like that midweek and you've got to go again, even if it's against rivals. And I think the way that we dominated them, ironically after they scored an offside goal, which wasn't that far offside, because I was sitting in the chair going, this is going to be a long day. And then after 5 minutes, I went, this is great. We just controlled it from the start.
Can I so let's go into the game itself, right? And just to set the scene. It's my opinion about setting the scene for this. So let's switch back to the previous weekend. We've had a really poor performance against St Johnstone. They've won away to Ross County. They've had to prep for Eindhoven Wednesday night. So all their prep has been for that game. Celtic were different. Come Monday morning, Brendan, his coaching staff, his video analysis staff, they've just got every tape of every game they've probably played this season, and probably some of last, well, probably more this season with a slightly different squad. And they'll have analysed it to bits. That's what they do. They're no different from most other teams. They would have started doing that coming Thursday. Hours and hours of footage. So both management teams would have looked at the other team and went, right, this is how we think they're going to play. Standard stuff, bread and butter stuff, right? I'm convinced Beale has looked at how we've been playing and went, there's a change here from how Angie's been doing it. What's happening is McGregor's still in the 6 role as a sort of conductor of the orchestra sitting there. But what we're doing a little bit different is the other centre mid, O'Reilly, in most cases, has been coming a bit deeper. Almost kind of having two sixes, if that makes sense, right? So rather than having a 6 and 2 10s or 6, 8 and 10, it's been a little bit deeper. And I'm convinced that Beale, understandably, and his staff have went, we think they're going to play the same way. And Kyogo, he's also going to fall deeper as well. Was a link-up player, as he has done since the start of the season. So they've set out their tactics thinking that's how we're going to play. And to start the game, they've also looked at our weakest point in our defence, Scales and Taylor. And what have they done from the very first minute? They went bang in behind the two of them. And that was their game plan. Put it in there. But this is where Rodgers used his coaching expertise and pulled an absolute stroke. It kind of came a chess, if you like. He changed it. He said to Mattarelli, see, we've got possession. You get up the pitch. You actually plays an 8-10. Move up the pitch 20 to 25 metres. Kyogo very rarely come back, steer it up in the centre halves. So by doing that, we had possession. Rodgers stretched the pitch. So you seen they got to the point where our 2 centre backs, you think they're going to pummel that 2 centre back pairing because they're new and put them under pressure. You Callum McGregor just filling in the hole, using the 2 centre backs or going to 2 full backs, and it was a 3 or a 4-v2 because he got it spot on tactically. Rodgers. It sussed out what Beale was going to do, and he tweaked it almost to an Ange-style formation for the first half on Sunday. And what surprised me is how Beale didn't react. He didn't think, what I'll do is I'll tweak it a wee bit, because what they have been doing, they tend to go 4-3-3, but it's either 2 white guys. They play in inverted, so they pull them in like we did with the fullbacks with Ange. They pull their wingers in. So it's almost like a 6, front 3, middle 3, like a 6 in a box that moves across the pitch. They didn't do that. I thought I was waiting, and they didn't do it. So for me, the first half, Rodgers, masterclass in tactics. Second half, which we'll come to in a wee minute, he tweaked it again, and I'll come to that in another masterclass in tactics, considering how weak on paper our defence was at the weekend.
Yeah, we're going to break down the game in a second, but I would just like to apologise to everyone who's listening in, because I really wish we actually did publish the video of this, because Hector, our resident tactician, was literally just given a tic-tac masterclass, showing like 3 people in this position, 1 person, and who Monty's doing it. It's literally 94 goes to 100 to 30, 5 to 1, you're outsider. So that was quite nice. But yeah, right, we're going to come to the points in the game, but Hector, I was really interested when I heard this. I don't know if you heard that. Callum McGregor talking about the tactics, and he said, and this ties in, I'm not saying, this ties into something that we discussed last week about the difference between working under an Ange and working under a Brendan Rodgers, i.e. how hard is it for players to understand what the manager's trying to convey. And Callum McGregor said, that was interesting to point out, that they had a full week to work on this. Callum McGregor said, we simplified the message. And I love this. And I was thinking that Monty would enjoy this. We gradually layered the instructions. So it's literally, we'll go back to first principles, and then it'll be, when you get the ball, you'll do this, and when he's get the ball, you'll do that. And again, one of the most interesting things was also Brendan Rodgers said, I did not touch anything up front. The only reason Kyogo had been coming deep was because the whole team had been sitting deep recently. So then when they'd actually started to play, and we touched on this with
stretch the pitch.
You should not be 20 metres up the pitch. Yep. Kyogo was in his natural position. Rodgers hadn't asked anybody to fall back and cover at any point. That had just been a natural kind of falling back that the players had done themselves to fill in space. But now that they know exactly where they're meant to be, then suddenly it was starting to click. And also, like Monty, the passing was sharper. It was 1 touch, 2 touch at the most. None of this pause, turn, pass nonsense that we saw for a few weeks. So suddenly you could see it maybe it just needed another week on the training ground to get that message, get that wee instruction, get that wee split second. The ball comes, the ball goes. The ball comes, you go. The ball, no, that kind of. You could see people were moving, and the best thing, Monty, people were wanting the ball compared to a few weeks ago. What did this Cal Mac?
I think part of it, that extra week, as you say, you're building up patterns, and the fact that McGregor used the phrase information overload. So
that would be the kittens there.
McGregor used the phrase information overload, and that would suggest that they're still unclear, and it's maybe just that little bit. It's elite level coaching still. Ange's system, they got used to it for 2 years. They're having to unprogram that and go again with Rodgers' new system. They're similar in ways. They're very, very different in ways. This is more about control and chess. Ange is fucking gung ho. I think part of that then, Desi, that extra week, the international break is a good time for you to recalibrate with those who aren't on international duty. They're going to get it quicker than the other ones. But I also think Rodgers' intervention, this is the first time Rodgers' intervention in the changing room has actually had an effect, if I can say that. It's the first time it really mattered. And they talked about, Rodgers, and I know we take the piss out of him, his use of language and all that. But he talked about he wanted men. You're a young team, and now want to. And let's be honest, that back four that finished that match would never be another back four. I don't think we'll ever put that same back four together again.
We'll come to that. Second half, second half, yeah.
But you have now a very, very young squad with a nucleus of boys who've been there, done it, who have been brought into an environment with their backs against the wall. You can't beat a good fucking crisis. You never waste a good crisis. And I think Rodgers has played that one perfectly, both in turn, right, you get it now, and everyone will be buzzing, and all the younger ones will be buzzing and say, fucking yes, I get it now, I loved it. And all the young boys who've been there before go, okay, this is working, even if they're a wee bit cynical about him. And I think there's a really, really good platform now. Over the weeks ahead, I think we'll get faster. I think we'll get sharper. I think the structure that he's building, there might even be a subtlety, Desi, to round it out. That maybe he's just told him, go out, just be a bit more pronounced about how you're doing this, because you'll start to see the patterns if you just slow it down a wee bit. Just backfired a little bit against St. Johnstone. And Kelly, shit pitch. We just didn't turn up seemingly, So, yeah, I think you're right. Management intervention, but also that extra week has just sharpened us up a bit, and we're on the upper curve. It's gonna get.
And there was also an interesting video going about today of Cal McGregor when they're all doing their stretches, and Cal McGregor's telling Greg Taylor, I couldn't see who was on the right hand side, but he's actually telling him in the game instructions. Don't know if you saw that. You can't really look at what he's saying, but you can clearly see him as if he's saying when 2 come down or when it's 2 on. That way, he's talking about tactics, but he's clearly telling him when they're doing their stretches. Right, let's go back to the game. Rangers have scored a goal in the first minute, so it was clearly offside. That was no worry. But as Hector mentioned, it was a ball over the top. That whole Celtic are holding the high line, and there was loads of FFSs running about Twitter as people suddenly thought, here we go, it's going to be one of those days. Matondo's pace is going to get in at the back post and cause us all these problems, etc. But then the Callum McGregor show started, Hector. It was suddenly, I have 5 yards about me and I only need 2 yards, let's be honest. And suddenly it was just a masterclass in how to be a midfield general.
Oh man, I'm sighing no because of Callum McGregor. I just wish some of our fan base, I've heard some of the comments this season already. McGregor's lost a yard, McGregor's no it's good, and I think, for fuck's sake, Connie, just stop, right? The guy's been magnificent now for several years, since, funny enough, Rodgers put him into that more central position. And it was the old saying, we say, form is temporary but class is permanent, and that's Callum McGregor. He's central to how we function because he's one of our best players, if not the best player. Certainly one of the best 3 players at the club, right? With Kyogo and Carter Vickers. And it was just a matter of time. And as you've all touched upon about maybe slight tweaks in formation, system, whatever, he's the conductor of the orchestra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's the brains. He's almost the coaching brains on the pitch. He knows when to go and step into 5 yards of space or to step to the right 5 yards. He's just got that. They call it a football brain, don't they? Which is something that's hard. It's hard sometimes to give people football intelligence. They could write a wonderful thesis, 5,000 word essay and something, but to have that intelligence on a pitch where there's 22 guys competing and just know when it's going 100 mile an hour to step into space, and people go, how come he's all, imagine the shouts for their stands. Look at McGregor, he's always got 5 yards of space. That's not just luck. That to be able to do that in that environment with all the hills at him, it's just, it's class, it's expertise. It's somebody that's a master of his craft, certainly on our level in the Scottish football. He just ran the show. First 10 minutes they did what they did. And from then until half time, Callum McGregor just absolutely ran the show. The pass he did to Abada. Abada, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He kind of hit it just inside, just about the halfway line with his instep, but he kind of curled it. This makes sense. He arced it left to right into the path of Abada, who had a lovely cross, and Kyogo really should have finished that. I think they tried to be too clever.
Let's be honest, he's not got a right foot, is he, Kyogo? He should be chased at the club.
Yeah.
He should be chased at the club.
But that pass in McGregor was just incredible. And I thought the first half he ran the show. And just on the first half, I've got to laugh about, I heard some of the comments, not from our fans, it has to be said. Kyogo could and should have scored a hat-trick in the first half. Yep. He probably scored his most difficult opportunity, the one just on half-time. So that was our dominance in the first half. But no doubt you're going to come to some big event.
Yeah, I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that, yes. So exactly. So just to bring us up, Monty, to around about the 28-minute mark. Celtic are in the ascendancy for one. We've had a few good chances. Rangers, for some reason, I have no idea if it was because they didn't have Barisic and possibly because of Maeda holding Tavernier back. But they were not going for the long diagonals. They were just going for almost the straight down the middles, basically very central, and it didn't look as though anything was coming from anything. And then we pass the ball between us, and interestingly, Hector, Brendan Rodgers, when he reviewed the whole Lagerbielke incident, one of his first things he said was, we didn't give him an angle, talking about the actual people getting into position to help other people. So, Monty, this is where we come to the infamous, or what they would love to be infamous, but a clear breach of the IFAB football rules, where one of our poor defenders was poorly assaulted by Cyril Dessers, and then suddenly they managed to get the ball in the net, and it ended up being one of the most hilarious Celtic Rangers moments in my lifetime. How did you enjoy that?
When it went in, I was just going, for fuck's sake, because, and I think I put it in our WhatsApp, I think, like, Lagerbielke is away with the Sweden squad.
Mm-hmm. First cap, I think.
I know that's a huge game, and I get all that, but he looked really tense and really nervy. And he's not, I thought he was only 21. He's fucking 23, coming 24. So, was a wee bit worried. There was a few other, he just didn't look right at it, but I went, oh, for fuck's sake. And then it went to VAR, and I went, there's no way he's going to turn this over. And then it showed the slow-mo replay, and you're thinking, the push maybe?
That's what I thought.
And I thought the push maybe is what's got them involved, because his balance is then affected. And then, you know, there's fucking strange things in the air when Bobby Madden clarifies something for you, and it actually makes sense. That he planted the foot in between the ball and the playing foot, and he didn't have blah, blah, blah. But it was the way that I think the ref fucked up his signalling when he blew, and he did the VAR signal, and then he pointed towards the centre circle, and they all went boogaloo, thinking it's a fucking goal. And that's what I thought. I thought he'd given it. And then you see him, oh no, and he pointed with the other arm back down, and it was just, I just sat there laughing, going, right, we're not getting to there.
Yeah, but in the meantime of the referee doing that gesture with his hands, Callum McGregor's also at his side asking, it was a foul, wasn't it? The ref goes, yeah. Is that, yeah. In the meantime, you've got 50,000 idiots going mental with joy. And it was like 10 seconds of pure, yeah, oh, boo.
It's like, this doesn't happen to us. We always get the referee's decisions here. There's something fucking wrong. So, you know, any wonder they're writing strongly worded letters at the minute to the SFA, because they've got so used to the privilege of the fucking refs giving them everything.
But see, when you seen it, and you guys say when Bobby Madden of all people came out and had a still image, maybe about 4 still images about that kind of part of play, and it's broken down. Said, well, Lagerbielke was in control of the ball. He's looking to pass the ball, and Dessers puts his foot in between his left foot, which was about to pass the ball, and the ball, ergo it's a free kick. If Dessers touches the ball, then it's probably a foul to Rangers, because then at that point he's took possession, or certainly, you know, he's interfered in play, so he's possibly going to get a red card against Lagerbielke if he fails him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the thin margins. The thing about it, it's clearly a foul. But they're so programmed now to having nothing given against them that they're away protesting at the SFA, and it's like, hold on a minute. You're and sorry, we're going to jump forward, Desi. Sports scene.
It's all part of the fun. Challenge will do.
Do you want to do that as after the match fun? That's after the match.
No, that's fine. No, it's all part. It's all part of the event. It's all part of that moment.
So Neil, and his nickname Neil Rulebook McCann, right? That's actually what he's called, right? Because he pulled out a rulebook to again have a go against Celtic or Pro Rangers. Wee Tunco, Judas fucker that he is, right? Anyway, that's by the by. But he's come out and went, I mean, if anything, it's a fail. It's a fail on Dessers. It's a fail on Dessers. And Big Charlie in it. Big Charlie Mulgrew, he's just sitting back there.
He's just retired.
Aye. And you know, he's quite a kind of cool guy, and he's quite relaxed, chilled. You see him kind of biding his time, didn't he? Kind of that wee sided glance look at McCann as if to say, you're just a tit. Kind of, you know what I mean? And he said to him, put it this way, if that had happened in the penalty box, the attacking team had possession and defender did that, it'd been a penalty. And that's pretty much what he said. End of story. Right?
Totally clamped.
Aye.
And then, but the best bit was the two examples. Let's see this time when Rangers won a penalty because of the exact same tackle, and let's see the time Morelos caused a penalty due to the exact same tackle. So they were literally up shit feet going, and that lad put on a tweet and it was basically, yeah, but no, but, and what they would have reduced it was, but if a referee believed it, then VAR should not have got involved. And people are putting up things like VAR should only get involved when it's a goal. So that's the whole reason we have VAR. If a referee makes a mistake.
I know this is pointed out to Neil McCann, and this is the bit, and he goes, now I know, by the letter of the law, it's a free kick, but I disagree with it. You go, yes!
And that was literally Tam McManus, John Hartson and Andy Walker for some reason. I don't know if John Hartson on Go Radio was just playing the classic sucker punch and that way. Yeah, I feel for you guys. You get robbed today, and all the while we're like laughing and we're like, but yeah. So it was one of the most hilarious, and it's still. This is Wednesday, and we're still enjoying the videos of it. You know what I mean? Just to see all their faces. So that was literally 28 minutes. The game carries on. Nothing really much happens. Maeda was unlucky at one point. Abada and Maeda was unlucky at one point. But then Rangers got a corner in 45 minutes. It comes over, gets knocked out, and Ian Crocker says, well, it looks like a goalless first half here at Ibrox, just as Joe Hart runs and smacks the ball from his 6-yard line right up the park. 6 seconds later, Monty, the ball is rifled in the bottom corner. Goldson to O'Reilly to Kyogo. One of the best strikes you'll ever see, honestly. What's a goal by Kyogo?
You have to say Goldson started the season on fire, scored away in Europe, and then another sort of goal, intervention or activity there. It was just the most bizarre thing. I think Kyogo said himself in an interview with Japanese TV, his celebration was muted because he wasn't sure whether he was onside or not. But I think Big Sutton in commentary was fucking lapping it up because it was such a good finish. It was just brilliant. And it's the sharpness. And I know I was talking in the previous podcast about maybe Kyogo's not Rodgers type of centre forward. And Hector corrected me that he's more Jamie Vardy than you perceive. That fucking sharpness of turn and let the ball bounce once and bang with such accuracy. It was just brilliant. And I think there's another weakness there to be exploited with what is our nearest rivals domestically in Rodgers' system, because we haven't really done it yet. And Kyogo was so good at running off the shoulder or hanging about in that kind of offside position and just getting himself onside and going. That ball over the top, ironically, that they tried on us with 2 rookie centre halves, and they got a little bit of joy out of it, but couldn't convert, both offside and a foul. We converted from it, and I think that's something else that we're going to see more of those patterns where Kyogo will come to that sort of relatively deeper position, but we look for that ball over the top because he was so fucking fast. And the accuracy was just delicious. I had one of the cats on my lap and it nearly landed on the ceiling because it was just like, what? Fucking yes. And at that stage, Desi, as Hector said, we probably should have been 2 or 3 up. Like, it's in a game of such magnitude with such deficiencies in the squad going into it. Proper masterclass first half. Fucking loved it. And delighted to be wrong about not starting Kyogo and going with Maeda centre forward. Although I think he'd have got 3, maybe 4 in the first half.
Again, he's just warming up this season. I did say in a previous pod, I could see Kyogo being Rodgers' Larson when he suddenly starts to realise how good he is and how he can get the team to actually work towards making him or presenting him with as many goal opportunities as possible, because he knows probably 9 times out of 10 Kyogo will hit the target. You know what I mean? So somebody like again cleared off the lines.
Is there something there, Desi, maybe to bring Hector in on? Was it just my perception of the game, or are we playing a system that is very finely tuned now to hit on the break, like better than it was under Postecoglou?
So when we did the pod, last week talking about the game at the weekend, and I think we'd all kind of kicked it about. Said, look, we probably require a Rodgers masterclass in coaching. Even in Sunday morning, with our WhatsApp chat, we'd said the same thing. And I think I'd raised the point last week, potentially a bit of rope-a-dope in terms of hitting them on the counter. And that's going back to the start of this conversation. I thought the first half Rodgers' tactics were almost going back to being what the players have been familiar with over the last couple of years. Create space, stretch them, Kyogo stay high, O'Reilly get away from McGregor, up you go, we'll dominate the game. At half-time, I think the goal was the turning point at half-time, because he totally changed his tactics the second half, and he's not touched upon it yet. He's wise not to mention it, right? He said you could actually clearly see it. Turnbull and Managerial step back 20 metres next to Callum McGregor to give us a low block, a bank of three sitting in front of the back four to protect us. And by doing that, it pulled their midfield up. They didn't want to really be. As you can see, they huffed and puffed. But what it did was see that half a pitch it left for Kyogo, Maeda and Abada. And if our final ball in that second half, we had numerous chances. There was one about, I think it was maybe just early in the second half, maybe 55 minutes. And I think it was Managerial. And all I had to do was play a simple pass. I think it was Abada. And Abada did the entire pitch. And he did a dreadful pass. And really did a really smashing second half. Don't want to be too critical of him. But you're right. It was the rope-a-dope. And even though they huffed and puffed and had the possession, that was by design. Totally by design. And if our final ball was better, we'd have scored another 2 or 3 goals the second half.
Yeah,
easily.
Before I forget, but in respect to Kyogo's goal, there was the aftermath of was the offside, and then it was clearly onside thanks to John Suter being as slow as a week in the jail. But it was again the silence, 50,000 Rangers fans, no understanding what they're meant to do. You know, like they can't really, they don't even want to boo because they're so annoyed with their own team, if you know what I mean. So they probably want to boo their Bill Cooley. But I loved those like comments like Dominic Diamond. I want that silence as my ringtone. I mean, it was this tumbleweed, the whole every, and Kyogo's just standing there like, and you just see the one going up on the scoreboard, and then that's half time, perfect timing. Okay, so then we come to the second half, right? And I just put up, because we've all saw this movie so many times. I just tweeted a wee picture of Lisa Simpson holding up a sign saying concentrate. I just wanted to come out and be focused for the first 10 minutes, because again, you expected them to be all gung-ho and here we go, get into them, all that kind of, and the fans to be right over the top, and I try to carry them on a wave of enthusiasm. But 15 minutes, Hector, did we really notice that much? Or a wee odd chance here and there, but everybody seemed to stand firm. The spaces weren't there. There was no, as I say, Tavernier and Sterling didn't have a chance of getting balls into the box. They were totally nullified.
Because they dropped,
because it always comes.
And primarily, Desi, it's interesting if you get a chance. I just seen the highlights again, the extended highlights last night. If you get a chance to watch the second half, watch how we set up the second half. It's clear you watch it straight away and go, okay, they've got the bulk of the ball. You expect that. Rodgers has brought back the two other mids either side of Callum McGregor. So by doing that, he's created 3 sitting right in front of the back 4 to protect them. And honest to God, if you think of the chances that we conceded the second half, you had the one where the guys at Lammers, one of the rare occasions, and actually Bernabei was ridiculous. That's the last 10 minutes, wasn't it? He jogged back to get the ball at the corner.
That's right. Yeah.
Fucking, you should have sprinted, turned, and just cleared these lines. So I'd imagine Rodgers would be upset when he looks back at that one with him. But other than that, and Joe Hart was magnificent, by the way, how quick he was off his line at the weekend to nullify a couple of dangerous incidents. But we sort of controlled it. And Rodgers loves control. All managers love control, but in different ways. It was a controlled second half to say, right, bide our time, keep it tight, bide our time, keep it tight. And the chance comes, we'll get 3 guys with electric pace up front, just release them. And it was just a smidgen off. In fact, Abada was the one where Kyogo had turned and Golson miskicked it again. Yeah. Right? Yeah, and it failed. There's Abada running in. And it's a fantastic save by the Rangers keeper, to be fair, wasn't it? It was arrowed into the bottom. In fact, it didn't get a corner for it, but what a save it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. But part of it too, Hector, if we can kind of just explore it tactically for a second. Desi, could you humour us for a couple of minutes? Because I know we want to keep
carry on.
But it's something that, and our resident tactician rarely gets things wrong. Mind you, under Bandito's...
Monty's a UFB licence holder, folks, I'll have you know.
He does, yeah. But mind you, under Bandito's bets in the old side, he did bankrupt half of the central belt. But that's by the by. The thing about Beale not reacting when we could all see it after 5 minutes, from a tactical setup point of view, you're trying to bring to life a new system and a new set of players, and they're all fucking, whatever. But even at the most basic level, even at the levels that we played at, when you knew something was so fundamentally wrong, you changed something. Maybe not 5 minutes, but maybe after 15 minutes of being dictated to, even if it was someone put your fucking foot in him, he's running the show, Earl Golder, and put the big ignorant one on him and hit him. Why do you think Beale didn't change, Hector? Do you think it's because we had so much other attacking intent that if he had changed it without trying to figure out how to be safe, he was fucked? Or do you think it was just we completely blindsided him? Do you think he just got it all wrong?
He got it all wrong. Probably just my opinion, two things. I think he got it all wrong. He's arrogant. Even Rangers fans will have colleagues or friends we grew up with, whatever. Even they're the first to tell you he's an arrogant man. And one of the things with arrogance is, what is it? You refuse to change. You're so arrogant, I know better than anyone else. Don't worry, guys, coaching staff, this will change. I've got no doubt one or two of his coaching staff must have said to him, Michael, come on, we've got to change it. And his arrogance sort of says, no, stay with it. We're prepped for this, stay with it. Arrogance. The second bit, and I say arrogance, what doesn't contradict it, a wee bit of fear. I think a bit of fear with the pace that we had in attack. They've just lost 5 going on 8 goals against PSV. Golson's had a mare. Souttar's had a mare. Tavernier's not a great defender. And they've got a young right back playing left back. I think a wee bit of fear was there. Hence why he didn't want to overcommit.
Yeah, and this is what I think is really, really interesting, because in that last game, dead rubber and all as it was, he went all in. He fucking went for us, and it worked. And he nullified Calmac in that game. And I know it was Ange's system and it was Ange's players, and he knew this is the way Ange is going to set up, and he had it worked out. And when I say he had it worked out, he got all the credit for Gerrard working us out after 3.5 years. But that's the COVID Cup and all that. But park that. Tactically, they bossed us in that season. We were fucking.
But we discussed this last week. Our form since the end of April.
It had tanked.
We had tanked. The league was over. Yeah. And Angie's starting 11 at that game was clearly almost a B team. But he put one or two first teamers was a B team. But we had tanked. I think we drew with Motherwell at Celtic Park 1 each. We went there and they gubbed us. We played St Mirren at Celtic Park. And by the way, St Mirren should have scored 4 or 5 goals that day. Yeah. And the only good performance we had was the last home game of the season. The league beat Aberdeen 5-0. Even the cup final we were shite. So I think a lot of that ties in with players knowing that Ange, there was conversations going on in the background there, and the league was over. We just, dead rubbers, they say. Different mindset come Sunday there. They were all fucking fully zoned in the system for Sunday.
Right, here's a question for you, right? Tactics wise. What was Michael Beale's tactics in Sunday's game? Given, and again, Monty, you and I had a chat on Sunday morning, and I wasn't praising Cantwell and Raskin, but I was saying they will be showing tenacity when we've only got McGregor looking for the ball, etc. They were nowhere to be seen. Ryan Jack, I don't even remember seeing him on the pitch. So I just assumed he was going to be the nullifier if 3-2 up, etc. But the midfield was non-existent. Hector, so what was actually going on with that whole, just punt it for the back?
Aye. So first minute. Think of the first minute, as you touched upon there, right? It was offside. But say it wasn't offside. And they go 1-0 up. What is it? A yard, half a yard, right? We played a high line. They went over that left-hand side of our defence, over Scales and Taylor, which would make sense. Anybody, you'd say that absolutely hit. attack your weakest area, because Alistair Johnson's our strongest area. Keep away from him, go the other side. And it was, but it was close. So say they scored that 1-0 up in the first minute. Can you imagine Ibrox going, what the score might have been if that had happened? Who knows? But it didn't. And they continued to do that for the first 10 minutes. So I think he felt they could physically bully our back line, including Taylor, which I think we can all accept. He's not the best in the air. But what Rodgers did that was really clever, they get through the first few minutes, was he stretched the pitch, Desi. He stretched it. He said to Managerial and to David Turnbull, you'd mentioned Turnbull a few times, keep away from Calmac. Go up and let us control the game. And they weren't willing to commit players high up the pitch. If you think about it, you've got Ryan Jack sitting as a 6 in front of the defence. You've got Raskin probably picking up Turnbull, or Raskin picking up O'Reilly.
No one knows what Raskin was doing.
No, but he left it. But he left the 2 up. He almost played 2 strikers, with Roof expected to drop into the top of the mid. But Calmac had a 3v2 or a 4v2 all the time, so they weren't willing to take a risk and push one of Raskin or Cantwell higher up the pitch. Tactics, and again, Rodgers just absolutely fucking pulled a stroke on them. It was beautiful, Desi, beautiful.
It was, and it was good. But again, like a lot of people, just touching on Monty highlighting the tactics, because a lot of people were saying like, oh, he's lucky. Imagine if Cantwell or Raskin had played the day. You know what I mean? Like that idea, as in they weren't even visit. Cantwell came onto a game, but again, he done a Ryan Kent, in my opinion. He runs across the pitch and looks the part. It looks interesting. But when it comes to, there's a ball at your feet, with a keeper to beat, what you got to do? I'm going to hit it right at him very softly. You know what I mean? That way, he's not got that clinical killer instinct. And you've got Maeda telling him, fuck off. And this bit, and that one, the one with Matt O'Reilly doing the pivot, and he just falls about 20 feet. He's literally playing dead man's fall. Cantwell at one point.
You've highlighted 2 of the 3 things from that match that were his highlights, pardon the pun, with his awful hair, right? Was the Maeda? Was the Maeda? Sorry, we'll go with the first half. Was the Matt O'Reilly spinning the ball, and he does a pirouette, Cantwell, it was about 15-20 metres and falls on his backside. The second half is the Maeda one where he throws himself to the ground. He does. Maeda just shoulder to shoulder beat it. And the last one was probably the best one. I think it was right on full time. Was it Odin Home? Bang! And by the way, the ref blew for full time. Go back and look at that. We've got a 4v2. We've got a 4v2 and he wins that ball.
But you mentioned that this a wee bit earlier. See that the Marino point of counter attack when we win the ball, say 5 yards outside our own 18-yard box. It's that like we saw Matt O'Reilly. They run 20 yards and then maybe make the wrong decision. No, you're coming towards the centre circle, and that's when you can play the ball over the top to an Abada, Maeda or Kyogo. So again, that will improve, but you can see loads of instances of that on Sunday. Right, but I want to go back to the other end of the pitch, Monty, right, to concentrate. We're all hands to the pumps, all feet to the pumps, whatever, and then suddenly Alistair Johnson goes down. He's knackered. He wants to continue, but Brendan says, no, get him off. He's obviously 80% fit at best. And then Greg Taylor goes down. So we basically ended up with Scales, Lagabielka, Ralston. I don't know what Hector's trying to do at the moment. I don't know if he's trying to open a can of beer.
No, it's the blinds. I'm pulling the blinds. Pulling the blinds down.
Oh, he's closing the blinds like a good neighbour. Yeah, so Monty, we end up with a back 4 of Ralston, Scales, Lagabielka and Bernabeu at Ibrox in front of 50,000 people, backs to the wall, 25 minutes to go, or whatever it was. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I think I said on the podcast, and I mentioned it in the WhatsApp, and I'll mention it again here. The biggest, not insult, because the best way for us to move forward, detach ourselves from that mob, which I think most of the sane ones among us do want to do. You still want a rival. You don't want it to be toxic. It's to just treat it like another game. And I think Rodgers, both tactically and personnel-wise, has just treated it like another 3 points. And yes, he talks up the occasion and all that. He's a clever man.
But do you think Rodgers would like to play that back four against anybody else in the SPL, or is that just a special game?
You wouldn't do that at home to fucking Dundee. You wouldn't. Now, ironically, Scales may well have done enough to keep a place. And he's a left-sided centre-half. And he's done nothing wrong. And I remember going through in a couple of podcasts and talking about, well, stick or twist. He did nothing wrong in pre-season. He is limited, but he's a left-sided centre-half who gives you everything and throws his body on the line. Now, I'd say he's guaranteed one of the spots. Like, the reality is the Champions League starting back four could well be the starting back four that was at Ibrox. Because Naraki's not going to be ready. Not Phillips will come in on the right-hand side of it. So you've got Phillips, Scales, Johnson and Taylor. That's our back four going in the Champions League. Hardly would fill you full of confidence. But to your point, Desi, that back four, I think I pinged up sarcastically a decent result for the under-21s. I meant the B team. Because it was the B team really that finished that game. And that's fucking scary. But in a lovely positive way for us. I thought Yang tried his best when he came on and looked good. Maybe try to play him in a wee bit more because Klinsmann's watching. You get that psychology of the player who's wanting his mate to come into the squad, and he's in the international squad too. It's fucking grand. But you look at what the talent that we finished that game with, and the talent that was missing from the start. And we go back to the model again. I know bang on a little bit on the business side of it, but the club has played a blinder in building up a pot of talent. And if Rodgers can do his work and make these guys better from a business point of view, from a squad point of view, we can only get better and make an awful lot of fucking money and keep doing it.
Yeah, Hector, so again, as Monty just alluded to there, as well as Ralston and Bernabé coming on, we had Home, Yang and O. So again, you would imagine that would be your 5 go-to subs at Ibrox. I mean, but every one of them to a man, as well as everyone else, of course, really stood up. That's what
they're
I
kids.
think.
Money's
really,
kids. They're kids.
21, 22, they're kids.
I'm going to throw
Come on, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. So you're just saying Lagerbielke's no a kid because he's no.
The ones that came on. Sorry, the ones that came on, Desi. The ones that came on.
Lagerbielke's an old guy at 23, but the rest
he's a kid.
Exactly. Think about that. An old guy who's an international at 23. Think about that.
I'm going to throw a curveball. Monty's comments was interesting about Scales, and absolutely agree. He how good he was deserves all the praise you can give him. A wee curveball for me, right? So Phillips was close to starting. I think it was more of international or some sort of clearance, not international, was what held him up. I don't think it was an injury or anything at all because he trained on Friday. So he'll come in. And then looks like the Rockies pretty close. And it looks like Carter Vickers is back in 3 weeks, right? Which is good news. Whether that means he can start or not is a different thing. So, wee curveball I've got. We've all got our concerns. I don't want to make it negative. I'm going to go back to the game, but just so don't forget this point. With the left-hand side. Bernabé is just Bernabé, right? Just whatever, right? I don't think he's a left-back for Celtic. Taylor's took a big dip or he's struggling. Hopefully it's just a dip and he'll come back again to how he played last season. What about Scales at left-back? He played for Shamrock Rovers there in the Europa League. This is Europa League, not League of Ireland, the Europa League. They did extremely well. Taylor's not blessed with great pace, so it's not a pace thing with him there. But what Scales give you is a solid left foot. He can defend and a physical presence. I'm not saying quite like Lustig at right-hand side, but that type of physical presence on the left, is that something worth considering? Or is it just, no chance?
Right, let's consider. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but in respect to the all-phase Liam Scales and he's fantastic. And before I forget, the man stats for this. I know you love a stat, Hector. The man stats 91 touches, the third most of everyone on the pitch. I would imagine McGregor must have been first. 10 clearances, Liam Scales, number 1 for clearances. 3 interceptions, number 1 for interceptions, and 4 aerial duels won. So even though that we won that, he found his step after the first minute mistake, and that was him ever since that. So unbelievable performance. But I'm just looking ahead here. So September 19th we'll get Feyenoord, and then we got into October for the big games. I'm like, October, Lazio at home, Kilmarnock at home, Hearts away, Atletico Madrid at home, and then Hibs away. So it's an action-packed October. So possibly could we go 3 at the back or 5 at the back at any one point to utilise? Because again, we don't know. We may have more injuries. Let's be honest.
I'd be interested to know if he did that at Leicester. Be interested to maybe do a wee bit of digging. I'll maybe look to see whether during his 3 years there, because he was predominantly a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 coach, Rodgers, right? These 2 fullbacks traditionally bombing on. I wonder if at any point he went with a 3. I'll see if we can dig that out, because one thing he is really good at, he's more flexible with his tactics, right? He's not one-dimensional. He'll easily change formation tactics 2 or 3 times during the game, which is really good. But can I just, so I don't forget, just on Rodgers, right? And I think we discussed this last week as well. We've all agreed him returning and all the history of it, and we go over old ground again, don't want to do that. But the one thing we have agreed upon is he's been very subdued, hasn't it? It's been very low-key, very, very quiet. I felt on Sunday that's the first time we've seen him back to his normal self again. And what I mean by that was some of his comments, right? I said to the players in the dressing room, courage, be men out there, be men. You know what I mean? The bullshit that he's not been saying.
Liam's a warrior. James is a warrior.
He to get the best out of Rodgers. Part of his persona is that language. That's him. Whether we can laugh off or not, doesn't matter. He wasn't doing that. He was too low key, head down. No. Balls out, Brendan. Balls out. Give us it. Lay it on, because that is him at his absolute best, is talking like that. Right? More of it.
Can I maybe throw a little bit of context into it? And I think this is where I think you have to. I would find it very, very difficult to be in the public eye. I would find it very, very difficult to be as resilient as most of these guys, even Beale with his arrogance, or Postecoglou with his, fucking smoking and overweight and his tight-fitting jumpers. Putting yourself up to be ridiculed like that is a very, very difficult thing. But ultimately, these are all just fucking blokes, same as us. I think we talked about his return to the club and some of the background info you'd have got around, literally family members not speaking to him the way he left Celtic because they were such Celtic fans. I think he's come back in with a huge dose of humility. He's also 50 now, lads, and we're all the wrong. Well, I'm not, but you are the wrong.
Look, even the kitten turned around. It was surprised to hear that there.
Kittens go, what the fuck? He's 50 now. He's a far more mature man than he was. Can you imagine balls out age 45 or 44 for managing Celtic? Any one of us? Fucking swinging him about. And we never got to the bottom of the Danny McGregor story, right? And I'm
waiting. I'm still waiting.
I'm certain.
Double down, Brendan. Double down.
I am still waiting. Before he fucks off to Everton next week, I am still waiting.
But I genuinely believe that there's a dose of not only humility there now, but also I think if it was me going back into a scenario where I hadn't really covered myself in glory the way I left, I would be very, very reserved and very, very fucking careful until I've got enough of a grounding that I can now start again. But I do think we're just seeing a much more mature manager. It's just a more fucking rounded fella. Do
you think that's a turning point? The victory on Sunday in terms of his return. Do you think that's that turning point?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Hector. And do you know what I think was the trigger? The first time I seen it, and you maybe missed it, when he was talking about Haksabanovic. And your man said to him, what did you make of that? He says, and he started off in the reserved Brendan's face of, well, I did speak to him about it, and then something flicked. Find the clip. Something flicked, and he went, yeah, talked about it. Yeah, it's not the best way about it, but he's moved on now, and I don't really care. It's it means nothing to me. It was exactly it means nothing to me, and it's the first time I've seen him in his return say, fuck that, I'm in charge. He can go fuck himself. I don't care. I've got more things to do over here, and he's toned down the messaging on the hiring of the squad. I think maybe he realises there's a lot of really good talent there. And if he does develop them, he's on to something really good now. So No, I want him fucking balls out bullshitting us to be at the band, because that's him. But I think you're going to start to see us grow and see him grow and his persona grow with us as well. But humility is not a bad trait to have. Works well.
I think personally, I think there's two aspects to the turning point thing, Hector. One, I do think it was a turning point in respect to getting a lot of goodwill with the Celtic fans now. We kind of say, again, maybe he has just earned those wee brownie points, and then that big massive win, and he's no rocked any boats, and he's no made it about himself, and he's just done well. But another big massive turning point, I think, is the perception of the Rangers fans. Because they look at Rodgers, if you've heard any of the phone-ins this week, they look at Rodgers and they see an elite manager who's walked into Ibrox against everybody with half a team and walked out the door laughing his head off. And they look at Bill and they go, you've had everything, you've had £13 million, and all you can complain about is you've only got 9 new players. And I think, so like that, so first impressions last, they've immediately went, him compared to him, we've got the bad end of this fucking stick. You know what I mean? And that doesn't go away. Because then the next game, the players have that doubt. It's what you know yourself, football's all about confidence. All you need is a wee bit of doubt, and then you've lost a yard. Or you start getting back a yard in the pitch because you're scared. And then suddenly all you're going to do is have Kyogo rattling them in. You know what I mean? So I think that really there will be a turning point. And again, if we can kick on tactically, smoother passing, quicker movement, and then start utilising the squad. But getting back to where we originally started, with the whole scales thing, there's no reason the guy should be dropped out the team. And again, it would be great, Hector, if we did not go back down the Ange road of, are you feeling half fit? Back in the team. Remember that? That used to really annoy me.
So what minute are we in the match, Desi? Have we got to full time yet?
We're at 96. Remember, we added 7 minutes on. Right, Rangers have had a couple of half chances. As you mentioned, Hearts made a couple of saves and a couple of blocks. We've had a couple of chances and we could have finished the game. But then the ref adds on 7 minutes. So Cantwell's running about, going nowhere, trying his best to look busy, but the usual nonsense. And then Cantwell wins it, but they have a long punt. Remember, it was the last gasp long punt for the keeper, Buckland, to send a free kick high from his own 18-yard line. Ball comes in, gets knocked down. Cantwell wins it. Holmes slides in a cracker, as you say. The refs obviously went, game's a bogey, because they're never even going to get the ball back. And the ref blows the whistle. And I've just written here in my notes, boo! And then it started. It's the irony of painting yourself into the corner. I'm going to ban all the Celtic fans. I'm going to fill the stadium with 50,000 Rangers fans, and every one of them are going to be angry bears, Hector. How beautiful was that to watch?
So here's just on that. So let's step back a week. Celtic drew home to St Johnstone, nothing each. We discussed it last podcast, and it was a small section. So let's not compare like we like. It was a small section, and I thought it's not the booing. People are entitled to boo. It's some of the fuck off and this and fuck that, right? Which I thought, come on, behave. But anyway, that's chalk and cheese to what happened there at the weekend. So for those who haven't seen it, Sky cameras just zoomed in. It seemed to zoom in on the zoomers, right? and there's one in particular, and I think we've all seen it a million times, right? There's a guy with rather fitting orange or tangerine top on, and he's got the right hand out, hasn't he? He's going, you fuck off, and you fuck off, and you fuck off, throwing his hand about, right? But what's brilliant about it, there's about 5 guys running about him, right? And all the focus is on the guy shouting fuck off, rightly so, because it's fucking hilarious, right? But then as the few days have gone on, you're looking at the other guys on it, and there's a guy, older guy next to him with a blue top on, and he's trying to throw the Vicky, and he starts with one hand, doesn't he? He starts with one hand, the other one, and he puts one finger up, like his index finger, so it's not even the middle finger. Then he kind of, as if he's trying to count, and eventually he can't, then he just stops doing it, doesn't he? He puts his hands down. And it was like, fucking
But as you said also, there's another guy who's just got a single boo. Just one boo. Just goes, boo. But I was saying, see the guy that was doing the finger bobs. I was saying maybe he was the guy that threw the lighter onto the pitch, Joe Hart. Because again, nobody's mentioned the lighter that the referee had to stop the game to get to the fourth official. No. So we're still waiting on that match report to come out.
Just one thing. Sorry, guys, for jumping. We mentioned the Celtic, nothing St Johnstone, and the players and some of the booing. It's not the booing, as I say. Everything's entitled to boo. It was some of the other get the fucking fingers at the players and all that. I thought, come on. Anyway, an interesting thing. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. The game against St Johnstone, the players, as they do, they always do walk around the stadium. And invariably, they kind of go left to right and they go down to the Jock Stein, the main stand, down towards the Green Brigade, and then back up towards the tunnel. And the bit they focused on was a bit down towards the Green Brigade, but it wasn't just them, right? That's by the by. But the players did that. Who was with them? Maybe 10 yards behind them. Brendan Rodgers.
Yep.
Was there. Watch the full-time whistle at Ibrox on Sunday. Watch Michael Beale. Michael Beale runs straight down the tunnel. Leaves his players to face the music with 40 to 50,000 angry Rangers fans. Michael Beale's nowhere to be seen. Runs straight down the tunnel. Now, if I'm a player...
Hector, you're wrong. Hector, that's wrong. That's wrong. There was about 10,000 Rangers fans left at that point.
But we talk about leadership, Desi, right? Leading from the front, and it doesn't matter if it's football or our line of business, right? You want a gaffer who's asking you to go out and perform. When things aren't going too well, to stand up, be central and show leadership. Michael Beale, whistle, shakes hands with Rodgers. They've got the kind of tunnel, perspex tunnel that kind of moves out, and he runs right up the tunnel and leaves his players to face the music. Watch that. I've no doubt the Rangers players must have picked up on that. Where the fuck were you? Talking to each other on WhatsApp chat. Where the fuck was he? Fucking in the dressing room. Left us to it. Left us to the abuse.
This is back to the difference between a coach and a manager. Like I watched him after the PSV game just to see, was he making excuses or where his head was? And he's trying to use the Gerrard phrases, the buck stops with me, all that shit, all that fronting up. But he's a man just clearly struggling to grow into the job. And I think they've backed him on the basis that, well, firstly, that alleged Jackie McNamara type contract, you'll get a slice of anybody you develop. But Sutton pointed out, and even Boyd pointed out after the game, he signed 28-year-old, 29-year-old, he signed ready-made players here. They're as much as they haven't a clue what they're doing on the pitch, it's very clear they haven't a clue what they're doing fucking off the pitch. They've backed him again in the hope that he can stop us in the next 2 to 3 years. That's what they've done. And it only takes us to fuck up once, and he's a hero. But the difference between being a manager and being a coach, the coach will try to give you instructions, will set out the cones and give you a program and all that. But a manager gets into your fucking head. Manager figures out what it is that makes you tick, and a style that reflects him as an individual, or her, because we're in modern times and it'll not be long till there's female top tier managers, and that's fucking brilliant. Beale I don't think he has the smarts. I remember talking about early season, I'm intrigued by Beale. I'm intrigued by him as an individual because he walked away from a really, really good job in London to take the Huns job. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing that for? Then you hear that there's money involved and there's backhanders. But it's such a leap of faith for him to take. He fucks this up, he's not a manager anymore, he's a coach. He goes back to being a number 2. But it didn't do your boy at Man U any harm. What did you call him? Bran thing. Ferguson's number 2. Remember he went to Blackburn. Bran Kidd, was it? Went to Blackburn. Unbelievable coach. Fucking immense coach. Went to Blackburn. Did well for 6 months. Fucked it. Ended up at number 2 for the rest of his career and was quite happy to do it. Steve McLaren's another one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have it. They didn't have that piece. And there's a huge difference. And it's not just a functional difference. There's personality types. And he just doesn't come across as a manager. He comes across as a fucking wide boy.
Unlikable. Right. Yeah. That's coming from Rangers fans. Unlikable. Arrogant.
But Hector, if he was fucking top of the league, 4 points clear,
you can live with that.
They'd love him. They'd love him.
But it's when you've no brownie points. You've no, in the kind of, in the bank, you've no points in the bank with the fans because you're likeable. You're trying your best. It's just no working. His arrogance no taking responsibility, leaving the players to face the wrath.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it. It's incredible when you watch it again.
But not even that. So I've just written the words here, Bill must stay, meltdown, right? And this, so again, as you touched on all these things, but then the aspect that really caught my eye was immediately after the game, Bill went for the press. You lot know nothing. You report these costs of these players and you're nowhere near it. I spent 13 million on 9 players. You go on like that. Danilio's meant to have cost 6 million. Chances are he cost 6 million because that's his wages. The old David Murray trick. So Bill's already making his own excuses to try and say they're no 6 million quality. They're 2 million quality, and they're already 2 years beyond their sell-by date because they've been struggling. And as I mentioned before on our Twitter, put a question out. Did Rangers sign any player that was still wanted by their club? Every player they seem to have signed was available for signing. There was none that was, we would like them to stay, but we've received an unbelievable offer. That Danilio, they couldn't get him out the door fast enough. That's the sort of aspect of dealing with. And again, Monty, so if you want to develop players, that's not the road you could do.
The best signing was a free transfer, the keeper.
Exactly. Butland, yep.
And I'll tell you what, if we'd have took Butland, you wouldn't have been that fucking annoyed. And you see him now in the way he's playing. He's a good keeper. Now we'll end up with a younger keeper. Kelleher's being talked about as a long-term thing, which goes back to the model. The thing is, these players, he excelled in saying that it was him hand-picking these players. So he went and met them. Talking about the whole Ange thing, making the phone call, seeing if you're the right fit. And they always talk about a team eventually reflects the personality of their manager. It's just the way it is. Everyone manages up. Everyone takes the traits from the guy above them. And what you're seeing now is that fucking snideness, but you're also seeing that wee bit of out of their depth. That's it. You know what? I think that's a club in real trouble on a pitch and off a pitch. And fuck them. The best thing we can do is just focus on ourselves. But you love gloating. Who doesn't?
Of course you enjoy it while you can. We're all old enough to remember the horror years. But this lastly on Bill, as a few people have been pointing out on the phone-ins this week, let's not forget, Bill took over from Gianni Van Bronckhorst, who did so well. Hector, you kept pointing out he'd done so well, but Bill was the guy that came up and went to the Loudon in the Bristol bar or whatever it was, and then sat in the Rangers stand with his Rangers tying that on, saying, yep, I am not here for a job. A man's in a job. I am all about loyalty. And then fucking came straight up the road as soon as they get a chance. That's what you're dealing with. That's an underlying trait. I know Brendan fucked off too, so I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, but there's a wee underlying thing that maybe you're going to look for there. So that's it. But let's concentrate on Celtic, right, Hector? So I've just made a few wee plus points here on the notes. You mentioned Brendan saluting the crowd in London Road, which was nice. So we've got our Brendan back. But a clean sheet at Ibrox, Hector. Another assist for £10 million man Matt O'Reilly. Maeda doing his finest Duracell Bunny act. And then Kyogo has now scored in every net at Ibrox, Hampden and Celtic Park against them. Against Rangers. Unbelievable.
Do you know what I was thinking before we had this tonight about giving credit? And the obvious one we spoke about was Scales and Calmack. Absolutely, fully merited. A few others, Alistair Johnson, just back. Matondo has been possibly one of their best players this season. Had him in his pocket. Alistair Johnson's 50% fit, 6% fit. Only going to get better. Joe Hart seems to take a bit of, I think, unfair criticism at times. I thought he was excellent at the weekend. How quickly he was off his line. He snuffed out danger 2 or 3 times. I thought he was really, really good. But the one you mentioned there, oh man, Daizen Maeda. We all know Daizen Maeda's weakness, which strangely enough comes from one of his strengths. One of his strengths is this.
Hold on, you went all Confucius on us there.
Aye. Well, one of his biggest strength is that blistering pace and that ability to do 10, 20-yard sprints 2 million times a game. Never seen anything like it, right? But the problem for him is at times as he's going that fast that his delivery, his final ball can be erratic. And it's not just Daizen Maeda, it's others, right? But let's focus on his strengths, right? The strength for Daizen Maeda was at the weekend's game. He had actually three players. He was kind of at different periods. Was nullifying. So let's start with Tavernier. Tavernier's probably one of their best attacking weapons in terms of delivery of crosses. No disputing it. He can cross a very good ball. So if you let him to get 20, 25 yards out, he can usually put a really dangerous cross in there, right? Maeda nullified him. And he got Tavernier doing what he hates, was having to defend. He had to stay back at the halfway line because of Maeda's blistering pace. Maeda was then pressing, supporting Kyogo at times, pressing Goldson, right? And then, within a minute, he's pressing the right-hand side of the midfield what's his face? Goldilocks. What's his chops? Cantwell. Daizen Maeda was working against three Rangers players for 90 minutes, 97 minutes.
Star Rangers players. Three Star Rangers
but
players.
But Desi, think about the effort. I'd love to see the stats in terms of the sprints he did, the area he covered against three players. I just think he's something else. He's something else. We accept his weaknesses, but guys, look at the strengths he brings to that team.
This is the thing that Ange talked about, Hector. He said that Maeda's recovery levels were elite. His ability to make that sprint, because the difficulty with sprinting isn't you can be fucking lightning fast. It's how quick you recover to do it again. Yeah. And that's that not only fitness, but that's elite level fitness, and they time those intervals. Maeda's ability to just keep going at 100% is just fucking off the chart. When I say off the chart in relative terms for us, we don't have anyone else like him. So he becomes indispensable in the same way Kyogo's indispensable, which means, just to round out a little bit more, if we can, what the club's doing in terms of the model now, given the core assets, good contracts, Matt O'Reilly, it's reported today, about atthe will sign a new contract without a doubt. To give him the value there. Because obviously these guys are now getting used to the new way of working. So we're protecting the assets, but we're also banking a ton of really good young development potential with an elite manager / coach on top of that. Fucking club's in probably the best shape it's ever been in our lifetimes, lads. We really, really should be celebrating where we are. And it's not because of the weekend. We're only 4 points ahead. We could still fuck it up and all that. But every aspect of the club right now just seems aligned the way Ange used to talk about it. And it'll not be long. I think we get a decent run in the Champions League. We'll be Ange who?
Nah, the league's done. I'm telling you, the only thing that can beat the league now is Brendan fucking Often. Everton before the championship goes over.
He's no daft, Desi. He's no daft.
As he went for a jog around Glasgow,
as you know, I like to bring
the Everton job came up.
I like to bring the realistic approach, stroke negative approach. I did have one question here with a question mark. Our corners, Hector. Is it the time we get a set piece instructor? Maybe Charlie Mulgrew, who's now retired, maybe he could come in and help coach corners. Because our set pieces were ridiculously bad. That's the only fault I could find. We took 2 corners in a row whereby we passed them 5 yards, passed them out to the second guy, then passed it back to the guy who took the corner. So he was literally back where he started, but he had 3 defenders around him. So I'm not really sure whose plan. Maybe we need an Austin McPhee for the corners. Right, last question on that game on Sunday. Hector, do you think the referee boss will apologise to Rangers? Remember they came out after the Hearts game against us. Do you think he'll apologise?
Guaranteed. Oh, absolute guaranteed. Yes, we got it wrong, and they'll make it up to them and give them an extra 5 penalties on top of the 25 they get every season.
Yeah, and before I forget, talking about apologies, Monty, would you like to apologise for being the promoter behind that Wolfetones concert last week?
Hey, all we can do is bring the horse to water. We can't make it drink. But I'll tell you what, the largest ever attendance at an electric picnic event on the Sunday night. And the beauty of this is, and there's huge change going on in the south of Ireland at the minute, because they're just getting ready now for the inevitable, which is going to be a Sinn Féin government. And all the kids who go to Electric Picnic, they're typically not kids from disadvantaged backgrounds because the tickets are fucking expensive. So when the ladies team belted out Celtic Symphony and there was all this fucking knicker wetting and
wanted.
And they had to apologise to that prick on fucking Rob Wooten on Sky. And then there's another event where it happens at the rugby and there's all this wailing and gnashing of teeth. The very people who would be discomforted by all this were the fucking parents of the kids at Electric Picnic who are giving a fucking laldy on the Sunday night. It's the most beautiful thing. They've announced now their biggest ever concert in the 3 Arena. It's tickets go on sale. They're going to do like 10 nights in a row. And everybody's getting fucking touring. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I'm just glad they've played some small part in the promotion of Celtic.
Well done. We're glad to know your Nick's Villa on the Hyperion Peninsula is fully paid for. Right,
maybe move up to Silver Coast now.
talking about being paid for, we're nearly finished. But just a word of congratulations to the women's team who played their first ever Champions League game today and beat Brøndby 1-0 away. If only the men's team could be so confident to go away and win 1-0. That would be good. So well done and good luck with the rest of the campaign. And Hector, the Champions League tickets have been announced for season book holders. £138 sterling, £46 a game. Any thoughts? Now that you're a granddad, any thoughts? How many baby grows is that?
Do you want to know the best bit? I'm missing the fucking Lazio game. I'm away, right? So the tickets have been sorted. So, but the other two, my youngest, he'll go with my brother-in-law. Take him to the Lazio game's the one there's going to be needle, isn't it? That's of the 3 games, the Lazio's the needle one home and away because of recent events. But £46, is it a surprise? What has it been recently, Des? It's been 40 quid a game, 42 quid?
I can remember. I was hoping it would have been roughly, they say, that 120, try and mitigate a wee bit of the whole Christ.
Well, see the fact that
we're
sitting amount of cash.
Exactly.
Right, and we actually made a profit in the transfer window, 11 million quid. So we got a fortune in the bank and a fortune coming in. You'd have thought, right? They're ruthless, right? They're ruthless.
Exactly. Remember Jeanette Finlay telling us it's always the fans' money. It's never the club's money. It's always the fans' money. And she was right.
But Desi, it's an easy answer. We don't have to buy them.
How are we going to give Brendan abuse if we don't buy tickets? Come on.
But here's the thing. By the way, it would probably suit the board for some reason not to buy them because then they sell more expensive, don't they, to non-season ticket holders?
I did see someone asking how much is it going to be for non-season ticket holders exactly. They'll be rubbing their hands, the old 55 quid, whatever, at £56. But anyway, so they're the dead. I just went to the highlight. They're on sale in the deadline. What
do we reckon? See, sorry, I've jumped in with apologies again. But what do we reckon with the group itself, Desi? What's your thoughts on the 3 teams? And what do you reckon we could finish?
I reckon we'll finish bottom because I'm always the most negative. I do think Feyenoord will be a better team, especially away. But we're a team in transition, as I've said a few times. I think we've got a chance. Best scenario, I'd say 4 points. Likely scenario, 2 points, 2 draws. I can't say is one. We might get a home win and a draw, but I don't think we'll win any of the away games or get any points.
Monty, what do you think?
You're on mute. The kitten's got you on mute.
Sorry. I was trying to chime into when Hector mentioned that his Lazio ticket was free. If it hasn't already gone, I'd have to pick that up.
It's gone, mate.
€60.
Fucking sharp bastards. Fucking 30 years of fucking tolerate.
My brother-in-law's got it, mate. Is that right?
Yeah, you're fucking together, better together, fucking pseudo-unionism.
You can go second on the list for my Rangers ticket at Christmas because I won't be here. But my future son-in-law is already first in line, but he's more of a golf guy, really.
You see, and that's where we need to lay out some ticketing ground rules. But yes, 5 points, Desi. I think we'll get a win and 2 draws. I think we'll win one of the games at home. I think the 2 Atletico games are free hits. If we get anything out of them, it'll be fucking staggering. Seen the stat today, like 156 million more per annum in wages they pay. That's stratosphere stuff.
Also, Anton Griezmann is also needing 15 goals to break their record. So he's rejected Saudi Arabia because he's determined to be their all-time record goal scorer.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, the good side of that, Isco has found his career being rejuvenated now that he's joined Real Betis. I thought that was nice news for Rangers
Nice of
fans.
them.
What about you, Hector?
Ralph, God bless him, Ralph. Right, Ralph put a wee seed about the tactics last week, right? About Rodgers' tactics and about how he tweaked it and tried to prepare more for Europe. I hadn't thought about that till he mentioned it last week, and I think there's something in that. We go gung ho, we'll probably get our arse on the plate to us. I don't think we will. If there's something in that, and we can, almost like we did the second half at their game at the weekend, but with all our best players back pretty much, I wouldn't rule us out of fighting strongly for the third position. Second, I think that's been a wee bit unrealistic based upon everything right now, but chance of third, Europe beyond Christmas. I think we're a mere sniff, definitely.
I think we'll be Feyenoord's the last game, isn't it? Feyenoord at home's the last game. So depends what they have done. I.e., are they already through, or is it going to be a winner takes all for third place?
That's the shootout for third place. I'm pretty certain of that. Without a doubt.
But again, we've beat Lazio before, home and away, isn't we? So who knows? But it's nice that we're looking forward to it.
Hey.
Like after a lovely Sunday there, a beautiful Sunday there, then we're now looking forward to what's ahead, mid-September into October and beyond. All right. So that was us. So hopefully everyone enjoyed Sunday's game as much as we did, and the laughs that ensued. Celtic have all the fans in the next game in December, so that'll be interesting. I'll be watching it from a sunny bar in Gran Canaria. I hope someone else is enjoying my seat, and it maybe Monty may not be.
Enjoying your seat. I'll be enjoying your seat. I think a bit of positivity to that south stand, Desi.
Oh, exactly. You want to be in with a nice company, with the nice barber.
Aye. Flask of soup, tartan shawl.
Yep. And just a note to say, Hail History on Twitter noted that today it's exactly 135 years since Celtic's first ever cup final. It was the Glasgow Exhibition Cup. In the tourney we played Abercorn, there's a team for you, Dumbarton Athletics, Partick Thistle, and we were beaten 2-0 by Cowlairs in the final.
Springboks finest Cowlairs.
So that was nice. So it's just left for me to say thank you very much, Hector Bandido, the resident granddad and tactician. Thank you, Hector.
Thanks, guys.
And to the man across the water who's managed to avoid the kitten who's been climbing his chair the whole programme all the way through. Monty, C for Kitten Burns. Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, lads. Really enjoyed that. It was great.
Okay, folks, thanks again once for listening. Please try and like and subscribe wherever possible. My name's Daizen Maeda. Good night.
Again, Michael Beale has completely overthought it. He's going to come out, he's going to blame the ref a little bit for this. He played a little bit better in the second half, but from how defensive he played, that lineup from a Rangers manager is absolutely shocking. The crowd let him hear it a bit once he subbed off Kemar Roof at the time that he did. So many questionable decisions about it today, and the atmosphere ended up flatter than Michael Beale's middle three. Yes, we had a couple of chances, a lot of individual errors again, and for me that is it. Enough is enough, and for me he's out the door.